Hey, we're students of the universe and we learn shit too. We don't have it all figured out. So, on today's episode of Therapy Unzipped, Brett and I will be discussing what we've learned in our practices in the field of mental health, what we've gathered from our clients. So, let's get into this. Brett, how you doing?
I am super fantastic, Tom. How are you doing on this fine Florida Friday morning?
It's really nice. I'm doing great. I like the change in the weather. Thank you. From the storm. It was crazy. I mean, and then once again, like we said before, our hearts go out to those who have suffered from the hurricanes, both back to back, Helene and Milton, and then also the tornadoes. That was an unforeseen thing, and that came before for us on the East Coast before the hurricane actually came through. We had several tornadoes touch down and just wreak havoc and some scary, scary shit.
Yeah, for sure. Again, hearts go out to all those that are still cleaning up that mess. So,
Yeah.
yeah, these storms aren't fun for sure. And then there's like chatter about, hey, could we have an election day storm? There's something brewing in the Western Caribbean. We're like,
Hmm.
oh,
Yeah.
it's got to be November, people. You can't do this to us in November.
I know it's going to be a storm nonetheless,
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But
with hurricane or not.
all right. Again, we're not going to worry about stuff until there's stuff to worry about. So,
But like you, I second that. I can't wait for it to be over.
yeah, I know. And it got such a slow start this year. And we're like, this seems kind of okay. We might just be okay. Wham, wham.
Bam, bam. Ooh, yeah. We took the 1-2 punch and then a hit below the belt.
Yeah.
Ref, ref. He hit me in the jimmy.
And there's still a lot of parts of Western Florida that are still underwater. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
in some of those pictures, there's sand, like 4 or 5 feet of sand in people's homes,
It's intense,
just
man.
washed in. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So, lessons we've learned as a therapist. Man, I thought grad school was hard enough, right? We had to learn all that stuff, how to be a therapist, and then we learned we knew all the answers, Tom, right? We had it all, we knew it all.
So we thought.
And then we got patience, and patience taught us more than grad school could ever teach us.
Yeah. I mean, we call it a practice for a reason. Not only are we, working at getting better ourselves, but we're also learning and growing how to handle and be present, be supportive, how to help many
Mhm.
different people. Now, there are some, commonalities, as human beings and living our life here in the United States. And there's a lot of similarities between people. I think in a lot of ways, as humans, we're more alike than we are different, but there are some differences. And of course, everybody individually has their own upbringing, their own challenges, their own traumas that they've endured. And so we need to kind of tweak our practice, our interventions that we use to, make it more individualized. And we are both eclectic therapists and we are collaborative, meaning that we use a lot of different interventions. We try to find the right fit for that person and we use them as the expert in their own lives. Maybe we have some really good advice that we've learned over the years that has been tried and true, but whether it's going to work for them or not, that's what we have to find out. So that just takes some work and effort on both of our parts, and we learn and grow based on how we're helping. And there's been so many clients where I've just botched or at least I feel
Uh,
that way. Some would probably agree, and some would say, no, not at all. But I feel like I've said the wrong things. I disclosed too much information. I, didn't use the right intervention, or they came in wanting a certain intervention and I steered them in a different direction because I thought that would be more helpful, only to find out they really wanted the first intervention that they came in. And so I need to learn to, or I've learned to, let them kind of be the guide a little bit for their
Mhm.
own lives. And so that's one thing I've learned is to allow the person to be the guide that, even though I feel like I may have the right answer, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right answer for them.
Mhm. No, you're absolutely right, and I think therapy, the practice of therapy is a mix of lots of things, but two really important aspects to that is the clinician's technical ability. So how well they know this information and they know different interventions and they know well how to apply when and how to apply the different interventions at different times, different theoretical aspects, those kinds of things. But the other thing is, I believe for a lot of people, it's the relationship that they have with the therapist that is also part of the healing process.
Mhm.
Some people want more relationship than less technical ability. Some people want more technical ability and no to less relationship issues. And some are
Mhm.
down the middle. So for us, it's a kind of like trying to figure out who this person is and what are they really looking for in a therapist. So that's always a gentle balance that I've found. What do you think of that?
I agree wholeheartedly. It's so much about the relationship that you have. And we've had clients, patients that we just really don't connect with. Usually on their part, they just don't connect with us. We don't resonate with them. There's something that maybe our look, or maybe something that we've said, or maybe we threw out a curse word without asking, is that okay? Is that going to
Right?
offend you? And or maybe we've shared a personal view that we have, or a value that we have that maybe didn't resonate with them, or didn't, it wasn't their shared value, and so now they feel like, well, they can't work with us, and
Mhm.
that's all learning and growing, and
Mhm.
being in this field and working with lots and lots of different people.
Right. And I've had a couple handfuls worth of people that have just gotten angry, kind of blown up, and a few have walked out like mid-session.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What was that all about? Right? What did I
Yeah.
do? What did I say? What did I this?" So it's that introspection about how did I blow this? And most times, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, they just they want to practice being angry. They need somebody neutral to be angry at because they're
Yeah.
working through their anger issues and they're working through some other stuff in their life. So
Yeah.
it's really not a reflection on me. So,
And we've had to learn how to not take things so personally.
oh yeah.
No.
I know the first couple of times that happened, you're like for days, like beating yourself up. And you're replaying the whole session in your head. What did I say? How did they react? What did I read? How was their
Yeah.
facial expressions? Did I miss any, body language? That whole thing that we go through. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Because oftentimes we never see that person again. And so we really don't know. We don't have like a closure to it. Well, what was it about the session? What was it about my office? What was it about me? What did I do?
Mhm.
Or what did I not do?
Yeah.
So I've learned that when I have the first session with a client, at some point, I ask, what has been your experience with therapy? What
Mhm.
have you liked? What haven't you liked? And what are your expectations between us? And those questions can be very telling, and I think they're very important. I think it's good for therapists to engage in those types of questions with the person. What has been your experience already?
Absolutely.
What do you hope to get out of our, experience? What did you like? What haven't you liked? If you have had an experience with therapists, and that gives you something to go off of. If they have young kids and if they have had therapy before, and they tell me, well, I had a therapist before, or I've had multiple therapists, and they were old ladies and they just wanted to talk, and I didn't really want to talk. So I'm going to move towards interventions that involve, maybe EMDR where they don't have to talk so much, maybe hypnosis where they can just go on a little journey and just kind of sit there in the chair, or maybe some type of play therapy, with them. Not that I have like toys and puppets, but I have little knickknacks and, things to
Mhm.
throw around and stuff. And so I might end up doing more work with that. So we're not just sitting face to face talking. So kind of
Mhm.
let them be the guide. That's something that I think has been a great learning experience for me.
Yeah. The other thing that I have faced a few times is, people come to, and you and I operated in a smaller community, instead of a, big urban area. And so we get referrals just because we're good therapists, right? So, really, if you have a choice to pick a therapist, you want to pick a good one. And,
Mhm.
but that's not the only thing that you need to consider. I always ask people that particularly have not been in therapy before, who is the person that you've been able to open up to the most in your life? Who
Mhm.
was that person? And a lot of times people will say their mom. So in that case, sometimes a female therapist is best for them, right? Because they have practice
Mhm.
opening up to women.
Yeah.
It's less common now that I find for me than it used to be like 10, 15, 20 years ago doing therapy. Gender is less important now. People are kind of open to it, but traditionally men don't like to open up to other men, right?
Right.
Because it's like
Mhm.
we're always been in competition with each other. We've always been, like on the playground in competition, in sports in competition. So sometimes men have a hard time opening up to other men, and it's not cool for men to show their emotions. It's not cool for men to show their
Right.
emotions to
We
other
have to
men.
be stoic.
Right. So, there's that relationship sometimes, and then or that's the relationship dynamic sometimes, and the same is true with females. Sometimes if females have had, domineering, dictatorial, authoritative fathers in their life or father figures
Yeah.
in their life, guardians, whatever. Sometimes they're not really open to have discussions with a
Mhm.
male therapist, and but it's vice versa with female therapists too. So
Yeah.
people don't understand, or don't realize, don't think about the ramifications of just gender and how that can influence a therapeutic relationship.
Yes, well, and you're kind of touching on some transference stuff, and that's something that has been really helpful for me learning that there
Mhm.
will be that. And there's also this thing called countertransference. But anyway, the transference is that you, as the therapist, remind them of somebody else in
Mhm.
their life that was maybe not a good influence, or maybe they had, a trauma because of and that interrupts the rapport building and your ability to provide, clinical therapy for that person. The countertransference is when the client reminds us of somebody in our lives and we have, an emotional reaction to that. And we start to form, assessments based on this other person that we know instead of the actual client.
Mhm.
So it's important, and that's another thing that we've learned from our clients, patients, is to be on guard for that and to try to mitigate um, those happenings.
I had a situation, probably 6 months after my mother passed away. A woman was referred to me, and her mannerisms, her story, her everything was just my mother. She was my mother in a different body.
Yeah.
And after a couple sessions, I just knew I could not be effective with this woman. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and I had to refer her on. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is not a you thing, it's a me thing. Sorry that I, wasted your time, but I'm going to get you in contact with a therapist that can help
Yeah.
you. Those things are real, and those
Yeah.
things happen.
Oh, absolutely. There are certain types of people. Maybe they're challenging people, or maybe they've committed a certain crime, and our own bias can get in the way. And that's what we've had to learn from our clients is how to, one, not let that happen, or if it is happening, to to not continue with that relationship and refer them
Mhm.
out to somebody else. And maybe you give the reason, or maybe not, or maybe you just, it's not a good fit, I'm going to make a referral to somebody else. But and that's hard to do, because
Yeah.
we are compassionate, empathic, and we want to help, but there are certain people that just trigger us in a way that
Mhm.
we know that we're not going to be effective with them, because we're going to be negatively emotionally impacted by this person, and you can feel it like in your gut, and that's not good. That's not going to be a healthy relationship, because
Mhm.
it's all about the relationship that we have together.
Mhm. One of the other significant things that I have learned, being a therapist from people, is you absolutely never ever know what is really happening in a person's life.
Yeah.
Right? And we're human beings, and we are taught to make, they say, there's no second chance to make a first impression kind of thing. People have made judgments about you, a person, within the first 5 to 10 seconds of meeting you. They have a picture in their head of what they think you are like. It's just human nature. It's wrong. It shouldn't happen that way, but it is. And I can tell you, some of the most well put together people have come in my office and sat down, and they left an hour later, and I was like, what
Holy shnikes.
was that?
Yeah.
Holy crap. You
Yeah.
would have never ever guessed
Yeah.
that the stories that have come out of, and vice versa, well put together people coming up with stories, people that, long haired, tatted, orange hair come in, and you have an impression, and they just blow you away at how organized together, thoughtful, introspective, that they are.
Right. The long-haired freaky people.
Yeah.
Right? People who have suffered tremendous trauma over their
Yeah.
lives and they come into therapy and within a handful of sessions, they start turning things around and you're like, I didn't think this person was ever going to get it. I just
Yeah.
that initial impression was like, well,
Yeah.
I'm screwed here. I'm really like we're in for the long haul. And
Yeah.
they turn their lives around quickly inside of like 2 months and you're like, ooh, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So you're like, so that happened.
Yeah.
And, and when we talk about traumas or experiences, it is so individualized. Like, there are people that have come that have lived through some of the most horrific, traumatic events you can imagine, and they're still doing okay. They're managing. They're coming to us for a reason. They have some other issues, but um, or minor issues. But it's like, and I think, oh my God, if I was that person, there's no way I would put one foot in front of the other. I mean, I just can't even imagine how
Mhm.
resilient that this person is, that they're able to live their life as well as they do. And then there are some people that and I don't want to trivialize it, but in comparison, such minor inconveniences in their life, and it's like the end of the world. And it's like,
Right.
are you like, and it's like in my head, I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it's like when you want to do a little slap therapy and like, come on, get over it, right? So that old comedian that said that. It's just stop.
Just stop. Bob,
Just
Bob,
stop.
Bob,
Stop your
Bob,
heart.
Bob.
Yes. So you're depressed. Okay. Just stop.
Stop that.
Stop that. I'm gonna fix you. Stop that. Yeah. But it's real for them. And
Yeah.
early in my career, I'd be like, what is going on with this person, right? I ain't got time I want to talk with people that have real problems. But you know what? For those people, this is a real problem. So
It's
you got to
real
meet them
for them.
right where they're at.
Yeah.
And it's just as important to them as the significantly traumatic person. So
And
uh,
that's a powerful thing that we've learned is how that looks. I mean, we can read it in a book and have, CEU or something that talks about motivational interviewing and about meeting people where they're at. But we've seen that in practice, and that's what we've had to learn is how to do that, how to meet people where they're
mhm,
at and reserve some of our judgments because we're human. So we're going to have judgments. I mean, we try to move towards, as therapists, just assessing them, clinically. That's more important and probably more helpful instead of us just having that initial gut reaction. And this is what we've had to learn is how to just hold the space and be there for the person. It's a real problem for them.
mhm.
Side note, you want to have enough money so that you are financially secure, so that you can provide and take care of yourself and your family. That is an important thing. Of course, having said that, money does not equate to your happiness. So if you feel like if I just hit the lottery or if I just find a job that pays really well, then all my problems are going to go away. They do not, because we have had an incredible amount of people, more people than you know, who have money, who have prestige, who have power and influence, and their lives are in complete and utter shambles. And
Mhm.
so that just having that is not going to solve your problems.
We have treated people that could afford any therapy in any country for extended periods of time, every resource at their availability, and they're just struggling. So
Yeah.
money has no equation into
Yeah.
happiness. Now, granted, people that don't have money say, "Well, test me, try me out,"
Yeah.
and I
Give
get
me a
that.
bunch of
But
money. Let me see what it's like, you know?
yeah, let me take that for a spin for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really
We
good
know,
point.
we know it's not going to solve the problems.
Mhm.
It creates some opportunities for you, sure, and maybe eases a little bit of stress, but
Right.
it's ultimately not going to. There's other work to be done. So if we can get that work done, then maybe if you're blessed to win the lottery or get a high paying job or whatever and
Mhm.
have a lot of wealth, then you'll know how to handle it.
Yeah. One of the other things that I have learned is talk about meeting people where they're at and listening to them, right? We say listening is easy, but I mean, really hearing what they're saying. Um,
Mhm.
and like, you'll have somebody that comes in that, oh, I'm significantly depressed. I have, bad anxiety. I can't sleep at night. I'm awake, my brain's in high drive, thinking all night. I have really bad relationships, but and I have this social anxiety, right? So we're like, well, and as therapists, well, what is it you want to work on? Like, what are your goals? What do you want to? How can I
Mhm.
help you achieve what goal you want? They're like, oh, I need to work on my social anxiety, and I'm like, that's what you picked. I would have selected something maybe different, but the
Yeah.
the thing with that is people got to start at their they've got to make their own decisions. That whole self-determination piece is, you know what? And I'd be like, so let's talk about depression. I mean, that can be a significant impact, but they're ready to work on social anxiety. That's what their goal is. That's what they want to work on. And maybe if they get some success working on a smaller goal of social anxiety, then they'll have more confidence to work on some of the bigger issues in their life.
Yeah.
But that was something that took me a while to pick up on. Because I always jump to, okay, I'm crisis oriented, so we're gonna stop the hemorrhaging before we
Yeah.
attend to the scratch.
Right. Stop the bleeding, start the breathing, protect the wound, and treat for shock.
Yeah, for sure.
If you go into a massage
But you
therapist,
need your toenails trimmed. Okay, well, let's do
let's do
that.
that. Yeah, we have to address those things that we're seeing, but we have to dance the line of also treating what they're wanting help with. Like if you go into a massage therapist and you say my right shoulder is really bothering me, and the massage therapist starts working on you and assesses that it's your left hip that's kind of out or in a way that's causing maybe that cross symmetry or that dysfunction with the right shoulder, and that's the root cause, and then they spend 45 minutes working on your left hip, then never touch your right shoulder, you're not going to go back to that person, even if it did help. So
Yeah.
you have to address what issue they're coming in for, and then start to make the move and say, well, you're coming in for social anxiety, but I'm assessing that maybe it's the family that you're living with and the dynamics in that. So I'd kind of like to address that, but let's start working on your social anxiety and building some confidence, and then we can start like like trickling into working
Mhm.
on what we're actually assessing clinically, maybe more of what's going on, identifying that root cause. But as long as you address what they're initially coming in for, that's what we've learned is okay, this is what they want, so we're going to start tackling that and figure out a way to go into something else that might be more productive for them.
And in many cases, they're testing you. Like, do you respect me? Are you gonna listen to me? I'm in charge here. People have pushed me to the side, have not listened to my opinions my whole life. So is this gonna be the same or is this gonna be different?
Yeah,
We get tested all the time, don't we? Ugh.
all the time. Yep. And our clients will test us, and that's something else we've had to learn. And also how to have really good clear boundaries, because there is a lot of gray area with that. I mean, we respond and react differently based on who's sitting across from us. And when we're with a kid or a teenager, we want to be more friendly towards them to kind of build the rapport. But we have to be wary of them seeing us not as the therapist, but as like a big brother or
Mhm.
another parent or something.
Mhm.
So it's kind of dancing that line, and it's hard to have really clear boundaries with that, or the opposite sex. You have a session and they start to heal and feel really good, and you're empowering them and you're validating them, which is something they may not be getting from their spouse or
Mhm.
significant other or in relationships, and they start to feel a closer connection to you. And that's something that we have to find, because I've had that experience where I've had to try to really, without being offensive, create those boundaries that, like we're here to do, a certain task and to provide therapy. And I understand that you're having certain feelings, and let's talk about them. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, but let's work through those so that we can still maintain our dynamic of, therapist client. And if not, then we're gonna have to, refer out to
Mhm.
somebody else. So, but that
Mhm.
happens.
Oh, absolutely it does. Not
Yeah.
only opposite sex, but same sex as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Had that experience as well.
Yeah.
Talk about other ways of like people pushing boundaries. It's happened twice in I guess 20 years. Is someone just lets out a big old fart during session?
I've
And
done that. Yeah.
all right, Tom, I wasn't mentioning any names, but um no, but
An accident.
and it's is the one person, it was an older person, so I kind of just let it, I didn't say anything, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But the other one, it was a younger guy, and I was like, what the hell was that? Like, what is, to tell me why you thought it was okay just to sit in a room with another person and just let out a big old fart like that? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's
It
going on?
wasn't an accident. Like he was.
No, I mean, yeah, you could tell. It's like he knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
I remember calling that out. Yeah.
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 You know, yeah. Yeah. There was a time where I just, I, usually sit with my legs crossed, or we know one leg over the other
Mm,
leg, the tailor position, they call it.
mm.
And so I just switched from right to the left leg, and there was just something sitting there, and it just let loose, and we had a good laugh about it, but
But you acknowledge, I mean, it happens. I don't care about that, but you acknowledge
yeah.
it like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Well, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
give me whatever.
Well,
But
I've
it's
had
just
like
like,
13, 14-year-olds that think farts are funny and cool. And so that you can tell they do it at school, they do it at
right,
home, and like
right.
they didn't think anything of it to just be like, huh. They were laughing about it. And it was kind of like, just so you know, let's kind of talk about that. Like it's funny, I'm a guy and farts are funny. But like it's not so appropriate. Like it doesn't bother me, but it's kind of inappropriate in this setting to do that just, for like just to be an educational piece, like
Mhm.
you want to be you want to be a little bit more like I don't know,
Yeah.
professional, and that they're kids, they're not professional, but like,
Right.
I don't know.
And, the other thing is, when we've done good work with people and people are healing and feeling better, they're very appreciative. And it's like, hey, we get paid for this. So, like thank you is nice and you pay me, so hey, we're all good. But then they
Yeah.
want to bring you gifts and I made you some cookies and I did this and look at I got
Right.
you this. And it's just and and ethically we have to put up some boundaries around that.
Right.
Some cookies. All right, we can take those once in a while, but don't get me a gift card. Don't get me a present. Don't macrame me a plant
Right.
holder.
Yeah.
Appreciate it and thank you. And so it's that whole balance with us of how do we maintain our professional boundaries and in the face of someone that's trying to advance a relationship outside of a professional one.
Right, because we really work hard at trying not to offend somebody. We want them to feel good about the things that they're doing, and if that's one of the ways that they give respect or even love, by doing stuff like that. They're really good at baking, so they're baking cookies and brownies and things like that. I want to honor that, but still keep that like this is not something that is kind of like that we do, like,
All right.
plus I need to watch anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is ethically, as soon as we've had you as a patient, you are off the table for any romantic relationship, really forever. Supposed to be
Forever.
forever. I
Yeah.
mean, some people say, hey, it's been 5, 10 years, whatever, but in my book, it's forever.
Yeah. Forever.
Forever. So there has been, I can't tell you how many times, like after someone's left, I'm like, well, that one's off the table.
Damn.
Dang, why couldn't they go see somebody else? That's funny.
So,
Lessons we've learned from patience, Tom.
yeah.
Mm,
And there's so much stuff. There's a whole Rolodex of different things that I have learned over the years from clients and patients, and it's helped me become better so that when I have a, new uh, excuse me, assessment with somebody, I can take all of that learning into the new relationship with a client, and that's a beautiful thing.
mhm, for sure. Yeah, we learn just as much from our patients and our clients as we teach them. So,
Mhm. What we also learn is when we are sharing, because we both over decades of being in the field have learned a lot of knowledge.
mhm,
And there's a lot of different techniques, a lot of different suggestions, therapeutic suggestions that may be helpful. And we share a lot of those things with our clients based on who they are and what we think might work really well. But we haven't done all of the
right.
ourselves. We haven't done all of those things because there's a myriad of things that we have
Mhm,
gathered, a whole toolbox of things. And what I've learned is that when I try out some of those interventions for myself and have an account of what I had experienced,
mhm,
sharing that with the person, is really helpful. So if I have tried it out and it's worked well for me, I will disclose that and I'll share it, like
mhm,
journaling. A lot of therapists talk about journaling, but a lot of therapists don't journal.
mhm,
So if you're going to share a different technique, I think it's more helpful, I've learned, to try it out for yourself, um,
mhm,
and to share more of those techniques that you have tried out for yourself and can discuss, what you have learned from that. I think that's really helpful. So,
mhm,
I journal once in the morning, once in the evening, and I can share that and say, this is what I've gathered from it. This is when it really worked well. This is when it hasn't really worked. This is when it was kind of like a burden, but it was still a habit. So I did it anyway and just wrote one sentence, but like, so get in the habit of doing that. And I can attest that it's going to be a helpful thing. Sometimes
mhm,
just leading by example is something that I've learned to be really helpful from clients. Because if
yeah,
I have done it and it's been successful for me and I share that with them and I share the ways in which it's been helpful and then they do it, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes they will engage in that more instead of me just ripping off five different coping strategies and they never try them. How many times have you like given somebody a coping strategy and every time, every week, you give them another coping strategy and they never use it and they say, I just need a coping strategy. You're like, well,
mhm.
I've given you, let's see, 47 already. Did not,
Right,
did,
right. I'm
did you
not getting
try
any
any of
better.
the?
I'm not getting any better. Well, what have you practiced? What have you put into place? What changes have you made in your life to, work down that path for improvement?
Yeah.
Nothing. Huh?
Yeah.
Put nothing in, get nothing out for sure. But
Yeah.
you bring up a great point is that we have a very delicate balance of self-disclosure
Mhm.
and how much to talk about ourselves and our lives with our clients and the reason for that. It's not for chit chat, but what I have found is in certain specific instances, I can say, I can tell you that, and this is a big one, when I talk to men that are going through divorce. I can say, you know what, I got divorced, after an extended marriage, 20-year marriage. And they're like, oh wow, thanks for telling me that. It makes you relatable. It
Yeah.
makes you this is probably not the right way to say it, but it really advances that relationship kind of thing because they can see you as a person that's also had personal struggles in their life. Um,
Yeah.
I don't give details about my life at all, but I'll do some of those self-disclosure. But that's a really tricky thing in the therapist world and how we use self-disclosure, if at all.
Yes.
Some people are
Yeah.
very anti.
Right, and you try to feel it out, and that's what I've learned is when to utilize it and when it's just me trying to like if there's a part of me that wants to impress that person,
Hmm.
because there's a maybe an insecurity on my part and I'm self-disclosing because I want them to be impressed by me because I'm trying to sell them, my
Hmm.
therapy services. And I have to check that. And I've learned to not do that. That, if that comes out because I feel like it would be a helpful thing for them to talk about, then I will. But I have to keep that stuff in. It's not, they're not here to interview me. I mean, they
Right.
are in a way that to see if we're going to be a good fit, but they're not interviewing me like to find out my whole life story.
Hmm.
And they'll try to do that because it'll distract from them talking about themselves, which
Sure.
can be
Yeah, and
problematic.
then you're right. That brings up a good point. The people that all just want to have chit chat for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And, sometimes people need to, break the ice a little bit and feel a little comfortable before but if they're wanting to spend all their time chit chatting, it's like, that's not what we're here for. And
Yeah,
it's,
if it goes over 10 minutes, then I have to make an intervention so that we can really get down and dial in the exact nature of what we're doing and why they're here. Because I've learned from clients that if I allow that to go on, then it's more prone to one, we're not accomplishing what we're working towards accomplishing, and they're paying money, for
Mhm.
me and for services. And then we have doorknob confessions, which is they finally feel after 45 minutes, of just chit chatting, and then they get to a point where they finally feel comfortable sharing, something traumatic that happened to them, which is the nature of what we're doing and why they're there. Then when they go to leave, after 50, 55 minutes, and they go to grab the door handle, then they're like, oh, and they start like tears streaming down their face, and they just start sharing this thing, which I honor because they finally felt comfortable enough to
Mhm.
share that. But then I have to, all right, see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Yeah. But, and it's right. We call it out. Some people just need um, to chit chat for a few sessions just to get comfortable,
Yeah,
and to build trust, to those kinds of things. And but as long as we call it out, like, hey, I know we're doing a lot of chit chatting. If this is what you want to do, if this is how it makes you feel more comfortable in talking, that's fine. But I want to honor your time and and money. So
yeah,
I'm gonna let you lead on this, but if we still are doing this, then, maybe you should go talk to a friend because
yes.
I'm not doing it
Right.
for you. Yeah.
Here's something else that I've learned that I'll share, and I think it's kind of interesting that we as therapists can have sometimes a degree of imposter syndrome. And here's one particular client, not an actual person, but like an amalgam of different clients, where the session is all about them just telling stories about their life, but we're not. I don't really say too much, in the session other than hello, goodbye,
Mhm.
and they just talk. It's just as soon as they start talking before they even sit down, and then all of a sudden an hour goes by and they just talk, and I feel like, well, they didn't get their money's worth. I wasn't a good therapist because I didn't intervene. I didn't try to offer help and support. I didn't try to make any positive changes in their life or encourage them or empower them. So but that's my own stuff. And whenever I have called out that particular person, or it's been a bunch of different clients, they didn't even see it that way. They weren't thinking that I wasn't doing my job. They just
Right.
that was their therapy, is being able to unleash all that and just have somebody sit and listen to them.
Mhm.
And it was a beautiful thing. But I was feeling like, this person is paying me a lot of money to like just sit on the couch and,
Mhm.
talk about their day. I need to be doing something, but I've learned that it's okay. Some people just need that. They just need somebody
Right.
to listen to them. Maybe nobody in their life is actually sitting down, listening to them and validating them or holding the space for them. And so they feel comfortable paying me to just sit and listen.
Yeah, and that's what they need. So again, meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
I have And then you have clients that will just do that and talk for 45 minutes or 50 minutes. And then there's 2 minutes left in the session. Like, so what do you think about all what I've said? And you're like, wow, well, that was a lot.
Yeah.
I think that look at the time.
Yeah. I do. I have a client, and we do like a longer 2 hour session, and great individual, and there's just 2 hours of talking, and there's a cathartic release that this person experiences at the end
Mhm,
of that. But there's always the, I gotta go, like I always have to, like I have to go.
mhm.
And there's the, okay, so what do you think about that? And then what do I need to do for this next week? And it's like, um,
Well,
well, I feel like the Micro Machines guy,
mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
spew all that, spew all the
Mhm,
stuff out. Now I have to summarize 2 hours of
mhm,
discussion, and then, but you know what? I've learned from that I just need to offer some guidance and support. Okay, this next week, I want you to work on meditating for 5 to 10 minutes every day. In fact, do a loving kindness meditation.
mhm,
And here's a link describing what that is. And that's
mhm.
okay. That's enough.
Well, I mean, in summary, it's a gift to be able to do this job and to have people trust you enough to help for us to help guide them down their path, wherever that path may go. And a lot of times that path is going places that we never anticipated, but that's okay. That's their story, that's their
Right.
self-determination, and we're there. So I'm appreciative of the people that trust me to help them in their life, um, and never s- I'm consistently surprised.
Yes.
You think I wouldn't be surprised anymore, but
No, it's an
still
honor to be of service, and I truly feel that. And when somebody asks, what you do, and they say, "I don't know how you could do that," and I say, "It's an honor. I get to help people every day. It's a beautiful thing."
wow. I know. It's like people say, "How can you do that?" I'm like, "How could you not do that?"
Right.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Mhm. Thank you, Brett, for being here, and thank you for helping.
Thank
And if
you,
you
Tom.
guys have any questions for us, please send them to questions at therapyonzip.com. I hope you liked this episode, and let's keep the conversation going about that. I'm sure we'll share more in the future about what we have learned being therapists, what we've learned from clients, and all things related to that. So thank you.
All right, Tom. Thanks for your time. Great conversation as always.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, I'll see you next week, brother.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.